This is the international business, a course that is targeting Master of Business Administration and Master in Project Planning and Management. This course has got objectives as listed in the slides. One is to understand the meaning of international business. Two, to get a brief study of how to conduct international business. Three, it has a list of the types of international businesses. Four, we shall study theories of international business or international trade. Five, study the process of internationalization. Six, we shall study characteristics of international corporations. Seven, we shall study methods in international business. Let's first understand the meaning of international business. International business is also known as globalization, which is the trade of goods and services, technology, capital, and knowledge across national borders and at global scale. It comprises cross-border transactions of goods and services between two or more countries. Transactions of economic resources include capital, skills, and people for the purpose of the international production of physical goods and services such as finance, banking, insurance, and construction. Let's look at how to conduct international business. Overseas business requires multinational companies to channel separate national markets into one global marketplace. There are two macro scale factors that underline the trend of greater globalization. One is eliminating barriers to make cross-border trade easier. For example, free flow of goods and services, and capital referred to as free trade. Then two is technological change, principally developments in communication, information processing, and transportation technologies. Let's look at characteristics of international business. One, it involves integration of economies of many countries, country A, country B, country C, and so on and so forth. It is keen to competition. Countries strive to be the best or better than others. Large-scale operations. These are not small businesses. They are big. They operate at large scales. It is dominated by developed countries and multinational corporations, like Coca-Cola. In this country, we have Coca-Cola, and it's a multinational corporation, and many others. Benefits to participating countries. Each country that enters into the international business arena strives to benefit in one way or the other. Special role of science and technology. This one also is very important. It cuts across borders. Countries learn from each other and develop in technology. Such business is sensitive in nature. For instance, cultural sensitivity. As you trade across borders, remember that you don't share a culture, and somehow you should be sensitive about the country with which you are trading, its culture. How actually compatible is the culture of your country and the country with which you trade? 8, there are international restrictions. We don't trade freely like that. There are some restrictions that have to obey. We have some quotas, we have got some standards that are supposed to be followed as you trade. Let's look at the process of internationalization. And we shall start with domestic company. Most international companies have their origin as domestic companies. The orientation of a domestic company essentially is ethnocentric. meaning that you actually believe that you are the best in the arena. A purely domestic company operates domestically because it never considers the alternative of going international. A domestic company may extend its products to foreign markets by exporting, licensing, and franchising. International companies. International companies are importers and exporters. They have no investment outside of their home country. They trade across borders. That's what we mean by international companies. We also have multinational companies. They have to invest in other countries. Country A invests in another country, but do not have coordinated product offering in each country. They are more focused on adopting their products and service to each individual local market. Okay, a Coca-Cola operating in a given country will develop a brand to suit a market of that company. We have global companies. Global companies have invested and are present in many countries. They market their products through the use of the same coordinated image brand in all markets. Generally, one corporate office that is responsible for global strategy, emphasis on volume, cost management, and efficiency. We have transnational companies. Transnational companies are much more complex organizations. They have invested in foreign operations, have a central corporate facility, but give decision-making, research and development, and marketing powers to each individual foreign market. Multinational corporations. When we look at a report of International Labour Organization, ILO, it is observed that the essential of the multinational company lies in the fact that its managerial headquarters are located in one country, which is the home country, while the enterprise carries out operations in a number of other countries, and those are cost countries. Let's look at characteristics of multinational corporations. One, multinational corporations have managerial headquarters in home countries, while they carry out operations in a number of other host countries. A host country is where the multinational is having an operation. Two, a large part of capital assets of the parent company is owned by citizens of the company's home country. Three, the absolute majority of the members of the board of directors are citizens of the country. Four, decisions on new investments and local objectives are taken by parent company. Five, multinational companies are predominantly large-sized and exercise a great degree of economic dominance. It means most of the things are done by the multinational company from the home country. Six, multinational companies control production activity with large foreign direct investment in more than one developed and developing countries. Seven, multinational companies are not just participants in exports trade without foreign investments. I think those are the characteristics we shall look at in detail at some future date. Let's look at methods in international business. One is ethnocentric orientation. In such circumstances, it is a state of believing that the people, customs, and traditions of your own race or nationality are better than those of other races. Ethnocentric orientation is where a person assumes that his or her home is superior to the rest of the world. Okay? So I will believe that in my country, we are the best, we have the best thing. It's a kind of jingoistic situation where you think that you are the best and others are not measured to your standard. Two, we have regional centric orientation. In regional centric orientation, the firm accepts a regional market policy covering a group of countries which have comparable market characteristics. The operational strategies are formulated on the basis of the entire rather than individual countries. The entire region is considered. The production and distribution facilities are created to serve the whole region with effective economy on operation, close control and coordination. It could be the East African region, it could be ECOWAS, it could be IGAD. Those could be regional-centric orientational kind of firms. Geocentric orientation, here the firms accept a worldwide approach to marketing and its operations become global. In global enterprise, the management establishes manufacturing and processing facilities around the world in order to serve the various regional and national markets. Through a complicated but well-coordinated system of distribution network. There are similarities between geocentric and regionocentric approaches in international market, except that geocentric approach calls for much greater scale of operation. It goes global, whereas regionocentric can cover a smaller part like the Horn of Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, or Africa as a region. Let's look at the last but very important, that is polycentric operation. In polycentric approach, the nationals of the host country are recruited for the managerial positions to carry out the operations of the subsidiary company. Okay? The justification behind this approach is that the locals of the host country know their culture better than and can carry or run the business more efficiently as compared to their foreign counterparts. We mean that if a multinational company is located in our country here, the key positions will be actually occupied by the host country individuals because we understand our culture better than the foreigners who have invested in our country. Okay, I think we have seen about, so look at the four orientational or approaches to business in the international arena. Let's look at international trade or international business theories. Basically, we shall study 5 to 6. Okay, you should know that to understand the pattern in international trade, different trade theories are given. Some famous trade theories are below. One is mercantilism, 2 is absolute advantage theory, 3 is comparative advantage theory, 4 is Heckscher all-in factor endowment theory, 5 is product life cycle theory, 6 is new trade theory. Let's look at them in detail and in turn. Of course, a list of theories of international business. We said one is the theory of absolute advantage, where a country has absolute advantage, produces greater output of a good or service than other countries using the same amount of resources. There are tariffs and quotas, but should not restrict international trade. It should be allowed to flow according to the market forces. A country should concentrate on production of goods in which it holds an absolute advantage. Okay. 2, We have the theory of comparative advantage. In an economic model, agents have a comparative advantage over others in producing a particular good if they can produce that good at a lower relative opportunity cost. Okay? That is to say, at a lower relative marginal cost prior to trade. Comparative advantage describes the economic reality of the work gains from trade for individual firms or nations, which arise from differences in their factor endowments or technological progress. Okay, so one should not compare the monetary costs of production or even the resources costs, labor needed per unit or output of production. Instead, one must compare the opportunity costs of producing goods across countries. Let's have some illustration ahead. 3, we have what we call the Heckscher-Ohlin theory. The Heckscher-Ohlin theory stresses that countries should produce and export goods that require resources or factors that are abundant and import goods that require resources in short supply. This theory differs from the theories of comparative advantage and absolute advantage, since this theory focuses on the productivity of the production process for a particular good. On the contrary, the Heckscher-Ohlin theory states that a country should specialize production and export using the factors that are most abundant and thus they are cheapest. Let's look at these illustrations. As we said in the above slides, we said countries should produce and export goods that require resources, factors that are abundant, and import goods that require resources in short supply. We have taken an example of 2 countries. We have assumed 2 countries. One is Angola and the other one is Botswana. You may realize that Angola has got a lot of land and has got some labor, but less than that which is with Botswana. Botswana has got a lot of labor and some little land. It means that Angola has got an absolute advantage, okay, has got an absolute advantage to produce potatoes, because potatoes need a lot of land. Whereas Botswana has got an advantage to produce shoes because shoes require more labor. Therefore, Angola will export potatoes to Botswana and import shoes from Botswana, whereas Botswana will export shoes to Angola and import potatoes from Angola. We can also look at the international product life cycle to actually illustrate the above points better. You may understand as you look at the screen that in the beginning, introduction and growth stage, multinational corporations, manufacturers, products, developed countries, exports to developing countries. Okay, there is early maturity where multinational moves production to a developing country, begins importing to home country. Late maturity, where developing country competitor exports products to multinational home country, competes with multinational corporation imports. Then lastly, there's a decline. Developing country markets remain viable target markets for multinational corporation. Multinational corporation home country market is diminishing. And you see the curve flattens it actually declines towards the right. Explain more about product life cycle. You may realize we have here the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. The vertical axis is having the pervasion, and the horizontal axis adoption time. It's the time. You can see in the beginning we have got innovators, and we get some introduction of 4 to 15% early adapters to the innovated ideas. Then we have got early majority. There is a rapid growth of 16 to 66%. New technology will be actually growing at a rapid pace. Then looking at the curve, here we get late majority. Late majority, there will be maturity of 67 to 95. This is the peak of growth in our technology. However, if nothing is done, there will be decline because this technology will become old, and it has to be replaced. If we don't actually become innovative and refresh our technology, then the business will decline to the extent that can even reach zero and it's extinct from the market. So we have already looked at the product life cycle. Let's look at the illustration of mercantilism, where we said that in this theory, countries strive at having more exports and minimizing imports. We have fewer imports. You can see it's like a scale whereby you look at the balance of trade. And the balance of trade should always be favorable if we are following mercantilism. We actually minimize imports as much as possible and maximize exports. Okay. Well, let's look at the Porter-Diamond theory of national advantage. The Porter-Diamond, properly referred to as the Porter-Diamond theory of national advantage, is a model that is designed to help understand the competitive advantage that nations or groups possesses due to certain factors available to them, and to explain how governments can act as catalysts to improve a country's position in a globally competitive economic environment. We can have an explanation about Porter's diamond model here. Okay. The tabulation is in such a way that we have a chance. Okay. This chance, as you can see below the chance, we have random events, natural disasters, scientific breakthroughs, terrorist attacks. They could be exposed to a given nation. 2, we have got farm strategy structure and rivalry. Here, we look at company strategies, structure of the organization, managerial systems, intense competition between local rivals in a given circumstance. We also look at factor conditions, which include natural resources, human resources, capital resources, infrastructure, scientific knowledge, then technology innovation. We look at demand conditions, which include size of the domestic market, sophisticated and demanding domestic customers, customer needs that anticipate those elsewhere. Okay, we also look at related and supporting industries, which include presence of competitive related supporting industries. Also look at domestic supplies that are strong, global players themselves. Lastly, we actually look at the government, and here we look at government policy, industrial regulation, government role as a catalyst and a challenger. Further illustration is here. Okay. Porter's diamond, determinants of national competitive advantage. Let's look at a firm structure and rivalry. Okay. As you can see, the arrow is actually both directions. It's combined impact of demand conditions. We have got the chance of the company, related supporting industries, factor endowment, then government involvement to catalyze the production. That's very good. We have come to the end of our introduction to international business. And here I give you an activity or coursework, which will actually carry 20 marks. However, it accounts for 10% of the semester marks. Question 1, describe the process of internationalization. 2, list the methods in international business. And lastly, discuss the theories of international business, 10 marks. Thank you for being part of this university. Subscribe and like. Thank you very much. I think if you have any questions, you can actually post them on the YouTube. Otherwise, thanks a lot for being part of this lecture.